So I saw this video from a young lady who was expressing her fear that she's going to meet Jesus and he'll say to her, away from me, I never knew you. And what she's referencing is a scripture where Jesus says, there will be some who will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not do all of these mighty works in your name? And he will say to them, away from me, you workers of lawlessness, I never knew you. And so she goes into to basically break down the question that she had, which is, how do I know? Like, how do I know that I'm doing this right? How do I know that I'm being like a good Christian? And I imagine others probably have this question, and so I wanted to take a moment and just very briefly address this. This is a fairly large theological concept, and I think there's a lot that we could say about it. But there's just a couple of basic things that I wanted to point out that that I hope will help. And for the young lady who made this video, I'm actually going to link you in, I'll link this in your comment section since I couldn't stitch you, because I want to answer your question directly. So the first thing to consider in that scripture that Jesus is referencing, where he says, those will come to me and say, didn't we do this? Didn't we do that? The focus of that is all about what they were doing. And his response is, I never knew you, right? And I think that's a really important distinction to make, is that he doesn't know us by our works. And I think that's something that's maybe sometimes hard for us to, it's hard for us to get our heads around, because in our minds, we tend to evaluate who we are aligned with by our ways, right? By our culture. And you see this outside of religious structure, right? I mean, think about like something that happened recently, California, Kendrick Lamar, had that song Not Like Us, and there was this moment where everyone who was part of that culture, right? So you've got like hip hop culture, and then you've got specifically California culture, and there's a group of people that are saying, you don't do things like us. You kind of like look a little bit like us. Like, you call them like culture vultures. Like you're kind of taking our culture, but you're not like from here. You know what I mean? Like you haven't walked in the places that we've walked. You adopted this culture. You're not from this culture. But that's not how it works with Jesus, because we can't be from where he's from. We're all adopted, every single one of us. And I think that's the key differentiator, is it's not that we are adopting something from him. It is that we are adopted by him. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that we can just continue in sin? We can just keep, living life the way we want to live life, and no change is necessary? No, of course not. But what it means is it's the difference between trying to not sin and taking our sin before the Lord and asking him to heal us and remove the sin from us. You see, the difference is that there's two types of people in this kind of realm of faith. There's those who see Jesus teaching and they say, okay, I can do that. And they work really, really hard to change their behaviors so that they can align with how they believe that God expects them to behave. And then there's a second group which says, we can't align with how you want us to behave. It's impossible. So fix me. We take all that is broken in us to him, and we ask him to fix what's broken in us so that we can be made better, not so that we can be better, right? And it's through that process that relationship is developed. It's in that state of extreme self-awareness where we go before Jesus and we say, listen, I'm a mess. I admit it. Make me whole. Put into me a heart of flesh instead of a heart of stone. Heal what is damaged in me so that I can live healed instead of living damaged. And so then we begin to observe the changes. We don't make the changes. That's a thing I think people a lot of times get mixed up, is we think that we make the change, but we don't. Scripture says, no longer conform to the former pattern of life, but keep allowing yourself to be transformed. It doesn't say transform yourself. It says keep allowing yourself to be transformed. And so the transformative process is not something that we do to ourselves. It's something that he does in us. It is only ours to resist the former pattern, to recognize that that pattern is a dead end. It is his to transform us and transmute us into a new pattern. And so as we go down this path with him, two things happen. One, there is transformation. There's not just covering over, right? We don't add good on to cover up the bad. We expose the bad so that it can be transformed, so that we can be transformed into something different, altogether different. We, through this process, observe the transformation. So we look at the change in behavior, the change in desires, and those changes in behavior and changes in desires are an indication that transformation is happening. So it's a third person perspective. We're observing the transformation that he's making inside of us. And because of the fact that we're not trying to make ourselves align with his standard, because that's where self-righteousness comes from, but instead we're taking what's broken to him and asking him to transform us, through that process, relationship is developed. So when we enter into heaven, we don't come before him and say, Lord, Lord, didn't we do all these things? We come to him and we say, Lord, Lord, thank you for all that you have done in us. So, to you who made that video, I want to just speak directly to you. Your heart is the indicator of transformation. The fact that you're bothered by this is the suggestion that that transformation is happening inside you. The reason that fear still exists, I would point you to the scripture that says, there is no fear in perfect love. And if you are experiencing fear, it is because love has not yet been perfected in you. This is a maturation process. And so as you continue to walk through this path with your Lord, continue allowing yourself to be transformed. And as love is made complete in you, and as you fully mature in your understanding of his love for you, that fear will be cast out. So when you asked, you said, why am I feeling this way? I feel like I'm being oppressed by maybe the demonic, or it's an attack. It is an attack, but it's also just an indication that you're in the process and that love has not yet been made fully complete in you. And that is a process that happens over time. And so like I said, as love continues to be completed in you, and as you mature in your understanding of his love for you, which is immense and infinite, that fear will be cast out. And you can accelerate that process by just continuously speaking truth to yourself that he loves you. That's how you know he loves you. Not because you love him, but because he loves you. That's how you know. Anyway, I hope that helps.